Check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. And for most video game collectors out there, there's really no greater feeling than being able to find that game that you've been wanting to add to your collection out in the wild and finding it for a great deal. The dopamine hits that you get from that are unlike anything else. And we truly live for those moments. I think that's what drives the game hunt, is just the anticipation of finding something like that. And when you're building your video game collection, there are a good number of games that you can expect to see in the wild. There's a lot of common titles that we typically run into. And even you'll notice that there's a lot of systems that you typically see out in the wild as well. I would say that in 2025, some of the most common consoles you're going to see are Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii U, Nintendo Wii, of course, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the Nintendo Switch, because those are still some of our current gen. But outside of the current gen, you're really just going to see that 7th gen stuff and maybe like a little bit of 6th gen. But as you start to get older and, older with the generations, it becomes more and more difficult for you to source some of these older games. And when you're building your collection, as you start to get into that upper echelon of games that you want to add to your collection, the more rare or expensive titles, it just becomes harder and harder for you to find these games out in the wild. Now, there are some collectors that are extremely patient, and they're willing to wait 3, 4, 5, 10 years. They'll wait as long as it takes to find certain games in the wild. They're just not going to buy them anywhere outside of just finding it in the wild. And if you've got that kind of patience, first of all, God bless you. And then second of all, you're one of a kind. Most collectors, they have a time frame of when they want to have certain games added into their collection. And they get to a point where they don't want to wait anymore. They don't want to keep hunting anymore, because you got to think, depending on how you hunt, even if you just spend all your time walking around game hunting, right? When you think about the time value being put into hunting a game for weeks, months, years, I mean, you might be able to just save yourself some money in terms of time value and just buy the game straight up. And this is where eBay comes into play. I think this is where a lot of game collectors begin to turn their attention to eBay, realizing that, you know what, eBay is really my only source for really being able to find this game and being able to find the game in the desired condition. Because a lot of times, even when you do find that game out in the wild, it's not in the condition that you want it in. It might be water damaged, the case might be cracked, the whole 9 yards. So I kind of wanted to show you a few games in my collection over the years where I've had to actually buckle down and pick up the game online. Now, even when you're buying games online, there's still ways that you can snag deals. You don't just have to hit the buy now price. One of the most effective ways of getting the best deals on games online is obviously doing the bidding, the bid system. Finding a game that has an open bid and seeing if you can be the highest bidder, but at the lowest possible price. So obviously that's one way you can do it. Another way you could do it is that if you see a game with a buy now price, you don't necessarily have to just buy it now. You can always reach out to the seller and say, hey, I see you have a buy now price of X amount of dollars. Are you willing to go down 10%, 15%, 20%? And when you're doing something like that, you always want to look at how long the game has been listed online. If it was just posted today, the odds are that the seller is not going to be willing to budge on the price. But if it's a game that's been listed for 3, 6, 9 months, it means that game is clearly not selling at the price that the seller wants it to. And if they're interested in actually making a sale, they may be a little bit more flexible on the price. So I'm going to show you some games that I was able to negotiate online. And you guys let me know down in the comments what games you had to just buckle down and purchase off of eBay or Mercari or another online website. The first game is Lords of Thunder for the Sega CD. Now, I had seen this game in multiple locations near me because there are a few mom and pop shops that do carry some heavy hitting titles. But the copy that I saw at my mom and pop shop, the manual was in really rough condition. it had some water damage, and the staples inside that were holding the manual together were actually beginning to rust. And so that was a no-go for me. And so I decided to buckle down and just pick up my copy of Lords of Thunder online. And this copy was pretty dang good. I'm not going to hold you or lie to you. Very good copy of Lords of Thunder for me. It plays great. And this is one game that I needed to have in my collection because it is an amazing shoot 'em up. Now, it's one thing to, try and find, North American games out in the wild, but the odds of you finding import games are slim to none. So there are a couple of import games that I had to buy online because I was never going to find them in North America because they're not in North America. So I'll show you a couple of examples of that. The first example is Hyperduel. I've never seen a copy of Hyperduel in any game shop that I've ever been to. In fact, when most of the mom and pop shops that I've gone to, when I bring this game up, they don't even know what it is. They've never even heard of Hyperduel. So Hyperduel is a Japanese shoot 'em up. This is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, and this was one that I had to order off of eBay. Thankfully, I found someone who was willing to negotiate down a bit on this game, and I was able to get it at a decent price. But Hyperduel is definitely, in my opinion, this is my favorite shoot 'em up of all time. The music, the gameplay, the sprite work, it's just hands down top five, top five, top five. An amazing shoot 'em up for sure. And it was not one that I was gonna find out here stateside. So I had to go ahead and make that online purchase. Now, I'm actually quite shocked that Limited Run, Strictly Limited, one of these companies have not remade this game or ported this game to like the Switch or the PlayStation 4. I'm really shocked. They've ported a lot of other games, right? They did Radiant Silvergun, they did Dodonpachi. I've seen them port a number of shoot 'em ups. Limited Run, they've remade a lot of these shoot 'em ups, and I'm surprised that no one has touched Hyperduel because honestly, it's the best shoot 'em up I've ever played, seriously. But I guess we'll see. Time will tell. Perhaps they may come out with a version of this game. I don't know if there's an issue with the source code or them being able to get access to the game, but Hyperduel was one that I had to get off of eBay. Another one that I really do think Strictly Limited or Limited Run needs to do their version of this game is Rapid Reload. Rapid Reload is basically another version of like think Gunstar Heroes, think Metal Slug. It's a run and gun shooter. The Japanese version of this game is Gunner's Heaven. An amazing game. Thankfully I own a PAL PlayStation 1 because without it I wouldn't be able to play this game unless I got some type of modded PlayStation 1, which I'm really, I'm not, maybe I'll do that at some point in the future, but I don't have a modded PlayStation 1, but I did find a PAL PlayStation 1 at a thrift store, and luckily enough, when you connect the PAL PlayStation 1 to like a CRT TV using the coax, it is playable. You do get like nice colorful picture quality. The game runs and it works on NTSC TV. But this is another one of those games, right, that I was just not going to find out in the wild. And so I had to go ahead and pick this game up via eBay because it was the only way to get it. And thankfully, again, I got a really good deal on this game as well. Sorry. The Gunner's Heaven version of this game, the Japanese version, is a lot less expensive than the European version. The European version is like three times the price of the Japanese version. And I think that's primarily because of the English translation, right? There's a lot of text in this game. There's a lot of talking. So getting the English version definitely helps for someone like me who does not feel like trying to deal with the whole translation stuff. But this is an amazing game, one that I had to get online. Now, here's another game that I probably didn't have to get online, but I saw a really good deal for it brand new. I found a sealed copy. Now, granted, it's not sealed anymore because I've opened it and played it since I picked it up, but this is the Red Star on the PlayStation 2. This is a very unique type of game. It's like a side-scrolling hack and slash beat 'em up slash shoot 'em up game. It's really interesting. Some of the boss battles play like shoot 'em ups, and your viewpoint is kind of like this top-down viewpoint, and so you have these three different characters that you can choose from. They all have their different strengths and attributes, as you can see. But this is just a very interesting game. It's an action adventure game, one that I recommend any PlayStation 2 lover to check out. But this was one that I picked up online because a lot of the copies that I was finding out in the wild didn't have the manual. It's so crazy how many copies of this game are missing the stinking manual. And I don't get it. I don't know if, like with some games, someone just said, get rid of all the manuals for this game. But at the time that I was looking for this game, it was hard to find copies with the manual. And then the copies that did come with the manual were pretty pricey. So, but the Red Star is definitely one that I got online. Just because, again, it was, this was a tough one to spot out in the wild. And then the last one that I'll share with you is another, not another, but yeah, it is another Sega Saturn game, but this is a North American one. And this is Batman Forever, the arcade game. Now, a lot of people are familiar with Batman Forever that came out on the Super Nintendo. A lot of people are familiar with that one, right? That's a very common game you see all the time. Well, this Batman is a little bit different. Batman Forever, the arcade game, was an actual arcade game, and this game came out, I believe, on the Sega Saturn as well as the PlayStation 1. Now, the PlayStation 1 version of this game is really expensive. I mean, really, really expensive. The Sega Saturn version is expensive as well, but I think it's about half the price of the PlayStation version. And this was one that, again, I found someone who was just trying to get rid of. It looked like they were just trying to get rid of a lot of their games. I happened to catch their listing like right when they posted it up, and I actually negotiated them down about another 20 to 25%. I was able to get this one as well. I don't remember the exact prices on these because this was a long time ago. So I'd be making up numbers if I told you what they were. That's why I'm not saying what they are, because it's been quite a while with some of these. But I know that the deal was a good deal for Batman Forever. And this is actually a very interesting arcade game. You get like power-ups in this game and super like special moves in this game. And in some ways, it does kind of look a little bit like the Batman Forever games, but it just plays a lot, like way different. This is a very, very interesting take on an arcade version of Batman Forever, and it's one that I definitely recommend anyone who has not, had a chance to play or check it out. Check this one out. This is a very interesting one to have in the collection, but this was one that I really wanted to have. And I knew I wasn't really going to find it anywhere near me. Now, here's the thing when it comes to a lot of these games is that, and this is something that a lot of you probably are seeing as well, even when you do find some of these games at your local mom and pop shop, these days, the mom and pop shops are charging 10 to 15 to even 20% more than what these games go for on eBay. So even if you do find some of these games in the wild, eBay is still like your best option in some cases. Now, if you want to support your local shops, then by all means, obviously buy with them, spend with them, especially if you've built relationships there. But just in terms of getting the best deal, I mean, honestly, yeah, like eBay has become or was at one point my best friend when it came to some of these more expensive games that I was just tired of searching for in the wild. Now, I haven't done any eBay purchases recently, so it's been quite some time. A lot of my online money has been going to GameStop because GameStop actually has had a lot of the rare games that I've picked up. Honestly, like they're the place that I've found a lot of my rare games in the recent, very recently. Two that I have right here, Metal Storm and Felix the Cat. These are two games that I would have expected to only find at a mom and pop shop or on eBay, but GameStop actually had both of these games, and they were priced pretty much at market value, or maybe I would say 15%, 10 to 15% under market value. Obviously, you get the additional 5% being a pro member off the game, and then you also get the purchase that it applies towards points that you could get to buy more games. You can use them as coupons. So all of those things work as benefits, right? And You know, when it comes to the games that I actually keep from GameStop, I only keep them if they're in good condition, and these labels were actually really good, especially this Felix game. The label on this one was top tier. I mean, almost perfect. So it'd be cool to be able to find the box and manual for some of these NES games. That would be really fun, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think about using eBay to build your collection, or at least get some of the more rare and harder to find games. Are you turning to eBay? Are you turning to mom and pop shops? Or are you just going to gaming conventions hoping that you find them at a gaming convention? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.